Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I am Fox, and today I wanted to review the brand new Scorpio Exotic Shotgun. This is obtained from the Season Pass in Season 4, at which point it will then go into the generic loot pool once you've obtained it, and as of all future seasons will do the same. You can simply get this by earning XP within this season that came at the release of TU12, and once you've hit that level 55, which is pretty easy to do so just by dark zone farming or light zone farming for that matter with a bunch of directives on, you'll get this in absolutely no time at all. This shotgun is quite unique. I'll go through exactly what it does. I'll explain its uses in PvP and PvE. I think it's truly going to shine in a very specific role in PvE, and I've put a build together here. I've modified a build that I think will be pretty good just for a good place to get started with this weapon. Is it's definitely a support shotgun more than a raw DPS one. You're there to enable your team to do more damage, and I think that this build is going to really sort of complement that playstyle. So let's have a quick look at the weapon, the Scorpio Exotic Shotgun. It is based on the 612, which means it has 130 RPM with 7 in the mag, or in my case I'm actually showing 9 in the mag because I'm running True Patriot, which does gives me a buff to my clip size, my ammo size. It comes with, of course, shotgun damage, being a shotgun, but we also get damage to armor and critical hit damage, which, to be fair, aren't bad attributes. Shotguns always come with damage to armor anyway, so that's a really nice feature. I would have preferred damage to health or damage to targets out of cover, probably damage to health, but it's not the end of the world. The talent, Septic Shock, has 2 different features depending whether you're playing it in PvP, which you see before you now, or PvE, which we see here. Shooting a target applies stacks of venom, which last for 10 seconds. Increasing stacks adds more severe debuffs to the target. So by landing 1 shot, we apply poison, 3 is disorient, 6 is shock, and the one that I'm most focused on is 7. Target takes additional 20% damage from all sources, but your stacks will no longer increase. So this isn't affected by your status effect or anything. It's purely based on, the duration at least, is based on the percentage of pellets that hit on the applying shot. This gun fires, I believe, 8 pellets, so the more of them that hit, the longer the status effect for each part will last. Once you get to that 7, the 10 second that's since been refreshed will just count down, and further shots will not increase that, so you'll need to start again from that point once that 10 seconds has run out from the 7th shot debuff. So it is quite powerful. Now, I tried this in PvP, and let's have a quick look there. So 2 apply bleed, 4 disrupt, 7 end snare, and 8 again the same. The target takes a 20%. The bug still exists in the game where you can reload an extra shot into the mag, so whilst this traditionally has 7, you can absolutely have 8 at every single encounter, so it's not a problem. But trying to fire 8 shots onto an enemy just to then get 20% additional damage to them, in my opinion, is pointless. The bleed, disrupt, and ensnare do work well with certain builds. You can have creep and death, or a build that very heavily relies on status effects, but ultimately to use a shotgun you want to be close range, particularly to get all those pellets to hit to increase the status effect duration. So I tried it with a few different builds, and I just every single time I was in an engagement, I was like, why am I not just using my in-sync M870? Because yeah, it is good to apply all of these annoying debuffs, but the whole point of PvP is to kill them before they kill you, and this shotgun doesn't quite have that luxury compared to something like an M870 or just a standard 612 within sync. The 8 targets, the 8 shots fired just to get the 20% it's just not worth it unless you're up against a healer group, and even then, because you've got to be there for so long to fire those 8 shots, yeah, I honestly don't feel this is going to be very good in PvP, apart from very niche situations. Time will tell, of course, but from my initial testing, I wasn't killing anything as fast as I was with my standard M870 on the same build, so just for me it didn't seem worth it. PvE, however, where it shines is against boss damage. You absolutely want to use this as your secondary weapon. I think one of the best and strongest places this can be used is against raid bosses, but also just against bosses in any sort of legendary content, as that 20% additional damage, particularly as I'm pairing it with Opportunistic for the additional 10%, is pretty insane. My build is a True Patriot build, as on top of the 30% additional damage I'm gaining from Scorpio and Opportunistic, I'm also giving everybody a further 8% damage taken, or should I say I'm giving my team the ability to shoot enemies that have a further 8% damage taken. We all know how True Patriot works, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but it does pair nicely with the shotgun, as we get the increased magazine size, the increased ammo capacity, and high rate of fire shotguns can be quite bad in PvE as they lose their ammo too quickly. This helps to negate that. And of course the red, white and blue means that we can amplify the damage that the enemy takes on top of everything else, reduce the damage that they do to us, and heal as well from every shot, which is really nice. So that all pairs really nicely with Opportunistic and Scorpio to equate to quite a lot of additional incoming damage to bosses. I'm not sure how it's calculated. I know that Opportunistic is multiplicative. I believe that True Patriot is too, but I think that Scorpio is additive. Either way, these are all additional incoming damage debuffs that the enemy receives. So versus bosses that you need to kill quickly, this build is going to destroy them. How many reds and blues you put on here is your choice. I'd probably go for more reds if I didn't go for tardigrade, but as this is a build that is going to rely on being close quite frequently, I felt tardigrade was great because it can help me with, you know, essentially an unbreakable style proc, but it can also help my team as well. So that was my choice here. You know, this is very much a 1.0 test build just to show you how the weapon works. I will absolutely be testing and adapting this build in the future, and probably just go 6 red. So just to see how it works, let's just go to an immune target so I don't just kill it straight away. Okay, so one shot. You can see on the left side we have the 10-second countdown, we have the opportunistic buff here, and we have the poison just here. If we fire 2 more shots, we then gain the disorient. We've reset the 10-second, and of course the 5-second is on there from opportunistic. Another couple of shots. We now have the shock. And then 2 more shots. 2 more shots? Oh yeah, sure, it doesn't show that debuff. So yeah, basically you end up doing a significant amount of additional damage in that window. So let's try that again. 1, 3, 5, 7. Actually, I think that was 8, wasn't it? But yeah. And then essentially the damage from this point onwards is a lot higher. So yeah, opportunistic pairing with the Scorpio and True Patriot do equate to a substantial amount of damage. So I want to test this against the boss. So what I'm going to do now is load into a summit game. I'll show you what it's like against bosses. So we'll probably just skip straight to the end. I might just do a mission or something, but I'll go right to the end where we come up to the boss, and then hopefully you'll be able to see just how fast we are able to melt a boss based on this build. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to deal with this boss here. Now the good news is that you don't have to apply your debuff to the same target. You can just randomly shock, in that case, somehow 2 dogs? I'm not quite sure how I did 2 there, but... So as long as you're landing shots, the game just counts each shot that does damage, and then on the 1st, 3rd, 6th and 7th shot... Is it 5th or 6th? I keep getting this confused. It is 6, so yeah. Okay, so I can count, I just can't count. So yeah, the 1st, 3rd, 6th and 7th shot, it will apply those debuffs regardless of what you shoot, as long as the previous shots have attained damage. This works really well with True Patriot, and this is why, you know, even though this isn't a true build, I wanted to use it with this because you have 10 in the mag. So I've got 9 here, if you look now I've got 10. And that means that once you've got that 20% debuff from the 7th shot, you're still re-procking opportunistic and just doing loads of damage with the final 3 shots. You don't have to worry about switching weapons and not then procking opportunistic. But the other good thing is because it has such a fast reload. Ooh, tardigrade saved my life there. Because it has such a fast reload, you can keep opportunistic up permanently. So for boss damage, why can't I get my shield out? Yeah, so it's just great for opportunistic, and obviously we're constantly reapplying the True Patriot debuff as well. Really hurt. Yeah, I like it. I think for boss damage and just for like heavies and the harder targets, this is going to be like the weapon to use on one person. A good example is one of my lieutenants. He runs in against the very first boss, Lieutenant Grey, in the Iron Horse raid. He runs an opportunistic Overwatch build. Ooh, that hurt. And that means that the rest of us just do incredible amounts of damage, and this is, in my opinion, the next version of that. So my guys actually start shooting this dude now. I don't think they know the boss is here. But this is nice. Like, imagine doing this against Lieutenant Grey, you know, the first boss of the raid. You're just shocking him, you're poisoning him, you're doing all of this damage, and the entire time you're giving your team all these extra debuffs, so they're just sat there on their AR builds, their rifle builds, whatever else. Honestly, this weapon is going to be key for any DPS check. So I think for the raid, I would say against the first boss, Lieutenant Grey, and the final boss, Morozova, I think that's what you call her, this is going to be the best weapon, because that 20% additional damage, particularly if you combine it with opportunistic, and if you really feel like it and you've got some good pieces, with a well-rolled set of True Patriot as well. As I say, I would definitely want to have more reds here and probably swap off Tardigrade for, I don't know, something different. I wouldn't go Overwatch, but maybe for the first boss, Lieutenant Grey, I probably would. Either way, you know, we've got ridiculous amounts of damage. 10% here, 20% here, 8% here. All of these work for ourselves, for our teammates, for status, for skills, for weapon damage, for explosive damage. Everything just gets magnified by ridiculous levels. So PvE against bosses, I give it basically 5 out of 5. I think for raid bosses, this is going to be the single best thing that one of your 8 can run with a build similar to mine. Maybe a bit more optimized. As I said, this is just a 1.0 build. For general PvE content, you want to be using this as your secondary. So set your build up. Don't worry about opportunistic or any of this stuff that I've got here. You want to be using your main build, your 6 red build or whatever you've got. And then when you come up to a heavier boss, what you want to do is get the 7 shots and instantly switch back to your main. So for general PvE content, again, I think this is 4 out of 5 for a secondary weapon, not for a main. So just hold it as a secondary versus bosses. For PvP, probably a 2 out of 5. I really struggled to make this work in any scenario. I spent about 2 hours testing this in Conflict and the Dark Zone. I just couldn't find the build that would be suitable for it. I'm curious to see if other content creators or just people, you know, that subscribe to my channel do come up with a good build that works. But every variation I tried that focused on status, creep and death, opportunistic, just general damage, armor regen, any kind of good shotgun build that you would see, by swapping to this, I killed things slower. Yes, you do debilitate them with those buffs, but ultimately, you know, getting 8 buffs to get the 8 shots on the target to get the 20% off, it just isn't worth it. It doesn't work enough. And even like Ensnare is 7. Disrupt is pretty good at 4, so it is good against healer groups. But do you know what's better? Just using a normal shotgun or a different build entirely. So yeah, Disrupt is pretty powerful, and as long as you're landing all of your pellets, the Disrupt will last for a good 7 to 8 seconds, which is really nice. So it is a powerful Disrupt, but it's still 4 shots. You know, you could sort of do 2 to 3 shots with an M870 and kill a healer through their heals with a standard shotgun build. So I'm not convinced in PvP, but PvE, absolutely the best weapon in the game for enabling boss damage. Yeah, just bear that in mind. Please let me know if you have any sort of thoughts on the weapon. Have I maybe missed something here that could be pretty good? Do you think that there's other builds that work really well? You know, as I said before, this isn't so much a build video, more as a weapon review, and I will be making more optimized and suitable builds in the future. But to be fair, Opportunistic, True Patriot and Scorpio against bosses is actually ridiculous, as long as your teammates are shooting into them as well. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.